Hey everybody, this is Johnny. I have Robin again, and this is the Did You Know History podcast. And this would be the fourth or third podcast. It depends on which one I decide to edit first. And today's topic we're gonna do is history in movies. So maybe a lot of people that watch movies, they're especially or interested in history. They will watch certain movies for historical reasons or a specific person they really like in history. And maybe some of you, when you watch history movies, you're like, oh, wait, why is it not accurate, right? So today, Robin and I will go over some of that discussion and offer our insights and offer some uh, thoughts about that. And we will talk about certain historical movies that maybe you know, maybe you don't know. So, how are you doing today, Robin?
Yeah, pretty well.
Nice.
Yourself?
I'm okay. I'm okay. Just
Mhm.
editing as usual. Okay, so we'll just go straight to it. If you can remember, or if you can, think about it, do you have a favorite historical movie? Now, it could be inaccurate, but it's about the historical person or period, or it could be very accurate. You know,
Right.
off the top of your head. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah. I know we've actually spoken about this one before, but I went through a time of really loving Braveheart,
Mm.
actually, as a film. But in terms of historical accuracy or inaccuracy, it probably leans quite heavily towards inaccuracy, historically speaking. Um,
Could you share a little bit about uh, Braveheart? People don't know about if they don't know about it.
yeah. So obviously, it's the story from William Wallace's perspective on the War of
Oh.
Scottish Independence.
Mhm.
Although that that sort of title is a bit misleading. Um, I mean, basically, what happened was uh, the heir to the throne of Scotland died, and without heirs, and the English king at the time,
I actually didn't know that, by the way.
Edward. All right, I'm pretty sure this is correct. Edward the First, known as Longshanks, maybe not to his face, but Longshanks. I'm not sure if that was a term of endearment or what, or if it was more of a negative thing to say. Um, he made a claim to it, um, whilst competing noble Scottish families um, made sort of counterclaims to that. And then there was a lot of sort of politicking, and some Scottish nobles obviously were quite happy to um, ally up with Edward the First of England for their own benefit, whilst others didn't.
So, when you said that, I actually didn't know. I thought Robert the Bruce was his son,
What of
the
the son of
Scottish
who?
king. That
No, no, the Bruces were a noble family that weren't related. I mean, they might have had blood relations to the crown,
because in
like
the
a lot of
movie it
nobles
was
did.
like some leper looking guy that was the father, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that guy.
Oh, he wasn't the king.
So no, he was he was someone trying to
He's just some leper.
maneuver.
Oh,
No, he was another one trying to maneuver his
oh, to like
family
to
into a
vote
position of
for
power.
Robert to become. Okay, I see. I misunderstood that
Yeah.
part. Um, by the way, I am a very detail oriented person with history. I haven't seen Braveheart in a long time. Okay. So what? Because I've seen it too. Um, Before you talk about some inaccuracies that you may notice, I would say one that I realized I remember is very much noticeable. I can't remember the name, but it was the princess married to Edward Longshank's son, and evidently she did not broker a deal. with, with Mel Gibson as William Wallace, and they did not, um,
Oh right, I see what you mean. Yeah,
did you forget
yeah.
that big part of the plot?
Well, something I didn't. I think I must have rewatched it a few years ago. So I loved it when I was like maybe sort of in my mid-teens or something. I
Mm.
can't remember when. And I must have watched it a few years ago, and I didn't realize that it felt quite long,
Oh,
and there
it's
was
very
also
long.
yeah,
Yes.
I don't remember it, and quite long stretches of I don't know, not much
Whatever.
going on. Like I guess
Yeah.
when you think when you remember it, it's like oh, it's the battles and it's like the crazy
Which
scenes
which
and
were filmed awesomely. Yeah, amazingly.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, but
Right, but
but
yeah,
that
so
thing
I
I'm
see what you mean.
highlighting, the French princess or whatever, she like met him and like had sex with him, I think once, I can't remember, and then basically brokered a deal or something, or she fell in love with him, and then they stopped. They basically stopped, or Wallace continued fighting, but she didn't want to fight because she loved him, and then I believe she had a second meeting with him, and that's where he was tricked into being captured
Mm.
by the English, and she didn't plan that, but it's like okay, that's completely inaccurate. Um, Another thing that I remember, I think I saw it more recently than you did. I saw it like 2 years ago with my mom, and it was so long. Do you remember the second major battle they showed? The first one was the one where they showed their butts, and they had the huge spears that like stabbed um, the cavalry.
Well, there would have been three. There would have been three battles.
Three battles?
So there would have been
Oh,
yeah.
you're
So there
talking about the
was
last one, the end of the movie? No, I'm not mentioning that one.
well, yeah. I mean that's important to mention just because that's like the deciding battle. But the first one would have been the Battle of Stirling Bridge, and then the second one I think is the Battle of Falkirk, and then the last one is the Battle of oh no Bannockburn. That's it.
So,
So the Battle of
oh,
Stirling
okay, I
Bridge is
can't
when they
remember, but
win.
the battle I'm
Yeah,
talking about, I think it was the battle where they lost, where
that's the Battle of Falkirk because that's the second one,
no,
the second battle.
uh, wait, which was Bannockburn, the end of the movie?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not talking about that one. I meant when I say battle, I meant like the full battle is shown. Because Bannockburn ends before he even goes into battle. Robert the Bruce, right? He just throws the sword. Um, or some one of his guys throws a sword. So I'm talking about Falkirk, right, where they lose. So there's the part where the English bring in the Irish, right? He ships in the Irish army, and then he's like, Edward Longshanks is like, oh, just send in the Irish. They're just like riffraff or whatever, and they charge at Wallace, and then they just start shaking hands.
But that's that's appealing to a kind of modern day
So I'm talking about inaccuracies right now.
camaraderie.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
but it's just
I mean, it would have been accurate that
they had a
the
deal,
English
yeah, a
king.
secret deal behind the scenes, but they did like I don't know if they
I don't
did,
know.
you know,
No, well, no, I was going to say. I mean, it would have been accurate that the English king at the time would have had
Irish troops. Yeah.
mercenaries, yeah,
Yes, yes.
from Ireland, Wales, and. But I think, I mean, what that plays into more is this bigger issue of the film. So it's not just the film. I mean, it's complicated. But basically, the film is playing into this idea that those series of battles were like defining battles in the nation of
Hmm.
Scotland's development
Right.
into the modern day nation of Scotland. And at the time, it wouldn't have been understood that way, really. I mean, the idea of the nation probably as a kind of concrete idea in people's heads probably begins in the late medieval period, I guess. Um, I mean, this would have been the High Middle Ages, I believe. So there may have been an inkling towards thinking of pride in your country. But anyway, but the point I'm making is primarily would have been understood as a kind of ruthless game between the nobility rather than
Right.
like a conflict between two distinct nations. And but obviously the film didn't start that idea. I mean, this obviously dates back to the kind of 19th century when they started, sort of romanticizing these medieval figures
Um,
um, in British history, Scottish history,
could
whatever.
I ask, did so in historically speaking, did Robert the Bruce actually betray him
I believe so.
to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
a
No,
position of power in Scotland, basically?
but but this is what I think the film does wrong because the film is portraying it as being like, oh, it's the good, or the good Scots against the evil English. I mean, obviously that's one
Right,
thing,
right,
but
right, right.
also like this idea of it is English versus Scots, and obviously you've got William Wallace like killing the betrayers,
Mm.
those who betray him,
Oh, right, right. Oh,
the
yeah, you're
Scottish
getting the
lord. Yeah,
vengeance part. Right, 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 right.
but I mean, the fact is that Robert the Bruce did the exact same, betrayed him.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't like he was tricked into it, or like they were competing families. Like they wouldn't have cared about each other,
Ah,
but because of the sake of like,
movie.
oh, it's Scotland, yeah, we need to make all the good Scottish heroes, the ones that win. In the end, they all have to be
And do you
friends,
remember
basically.
the
It's one of
sword
those things.
swaying at the end?
Oh yeah, beautiful.
Cinematic.
Very romantic. Yeah.
um,
Um,
yeah,
I mean,
right. I
also
remember that.
things like that the whole showing butts, which you
Oh, yeah.
uh, referred to earlier.
Was that did that happen?
I mean, the whole. Yeah, I mean, it's quite likely, but I mean, taunting your enemy
Mm-hmm.
was a big thing. I mean, a lot of people maybe aren't aware that what would happen. You'd have like with a battle, you'd have like a kind of a pre-battle where you'd have like people
Parlay.
jeering and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
shouting and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like throwing stones or whatever. So it's quite likely that would have happened. But I think what's interesting is how the battles themselves are not portrayed as they were at all. I mean, the Battle of
Oh,
Stirling
I'm
Bridge,
sure.
for
Yeah.
example, it was literally on around a bridge.
Right, right.
And whilst it is true that the Scots were using poles to defeat the English, it wasn't like, oh, let's keep them on the ground and hide them. And then, oh, the English cavalry just aren't going to see them. And then, right at the last minute, we hold them up and then
He
kill
says,
them all. It
"Hold."
didn't quite happen like that. Yeah.
It's like they don't know where we have it. Yeah. I when you mentioned the thing
So that's
about
predicted.
the competing fountains, I actually remember something we talked about Braveheart many years ago that I remember now. It's like William Wallace was not a country bumpkin, like living in a hut.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't know if he had a
Mm.
castle, but like he wasn't like some dude, like some farmer. Which, of course,
No,
when
so
I
he.
first watched,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, William Wallace was like a poor bumpkin. Like, okay, like in the village. It's like no, he actually was a very like established, well off, whatever. Like, not lord, but just like a person. So
Yeah, he would
yeah,
have. Like in the film, it shows him speaking Latin and French, which is quite likely because, as you say, he was from a
right.
noble family that would have had
Needed that.
access to education, and that too, yeah, would have needed it as well. But this idea, yeah, that but that again, it plays into the kind of the romanticism of it. It's like he is the underdog, and he's just this. It's the hero's now. It's the hero's journey, isn't it? Like he's doesn't want to join in with the bigger
Mm-hmm.
battle because he's like, oh, I'm just this simple guy who just wants a family. It's like, well, no. In real life, he was like willing to kill anyone to get what he wanted.
Right.
There was no stopping him really. So yeah, that's another one.
Okay. Yeah, that was good. Good discussion. So I'll just go into my favorite historical movie. I'm gonna say something and be very open and honest. I haven't seen that many historical movies, not because I choose not to. It's because they're all inaccurate. Okay, and that really annoys me as a person who loves history, because I personally think history itself is beyond interesting, right? It's beyond fascinating because these certain events or these certain people help shape our world, right? So the film that I personally always go back to would be, and I'm saying historical in the sense of like involving politics, a different like a leader of some sort. I'm not talking about a period piece film. My favorite period piece film historically would be The Godfather. Even then, that's inaccurate in a way because it's not a real family, right? But I'm talking about like political type movies. So it would probably be Gladiator, right? Um, I personally think it's really well made, and as you said with Braveheart, it also has vast periods of like bleh, you know, in between parts. Of course, they're developing character, they're developing a story. Um, of course, the most famous moments of the film are definitely the gladiator fight scenes. Um, I believe there were three. One where he was in North Africa or something, or Spain was it? I can't remember. I think it was North Africa. And then the two in Rome. And definitely in the beginning battle, that was done, beautifully. Now, of course, was that accurate? No. There's a lot of inaccuracies inside of Gladiator. They even said that um, that battle that was shown never took place. Okay, and there's no name for it. And see, so there's a thing where I get it because it's Roman history. It A lot of it has to be taken with a certain grain of salt, like the stories of Caligula or the stories of Nero. I believe Caligula is the crazy one where he made his horse a consul. So a lot of it is embellished. A lot of it is a little bit exaggerated. So, but at the face value of what is given with Gladiator, a lot of it is inaccurate. And like I can't remember the name of Russell Crowe's character, but he wasn't real. Okay. Um, so if we're talking about like a major plot point within the film that was inaccurate, it would be the part where he stabs to death Commodus, the emperor, in the Colosseum. It's like, okay, come on, like that's never happened, and that there's too much Hollywood in that part of the film. And of course, when I was young, when I watched it, I believed it. I was like, oh damn, like this crazy gladiator general like kills the emperor of Rome inside the Colosseum. And then, of course, years later, I discovered I was like, it's completely false. Um,
Well, there was, I think, an emperor who was stabbed to death in the Colosseum.
it certainly wasn't these emperor.
No,
The
well,
what's it called? This is a line.
no.
They're called the. He was the last.
Julio
Yeah,
Claudian
Julio
dynasty or
Claudian
something,
dynasty, and then he
no?
was part of the
Claudia.
last. He was the one that broke the streak of the good emperors. Commodus was, and by the way, Commodus was the first emperor that four that was of actual blood, like direct blood with the four. I believe Trajan, Hadrian, they were not related. I believe, yeah, I think so. And then there's a Nerva in there, and then the last one was the hold up, not Nerva. Oh, I'm not Nerva. It was Antoninus Pius, and then finally with I believe Marcus Aurelius. I believe, yeah, I think I'm getting this right. Okay, anyway, um, yeah, of course the film's embellished in many ways, so that's typical of Hollywood, and we just kind of have to accept that. And yeah, any thoughts about Gladiator, or
Um,
if you haven't
I
seen it in
think
a long
you
time,
pretty
it's
much
okay.
covered it for me. Yeah, it's been a few years. I mean, I did think it was amazing. Again, the kind of the, I think more than any other film that captured the kind of the theater of like the killing, because I think even in the Colosseum in Rome, they would even fill it with water
Yes,
and have like mock sea
yes,
battles. Yeah.
I've heard about that.
So
Yeah,
the fact that that film was willing to go so far as to show how crazy some of these mock battles
yes,
are, or were rather. Yeah, I think that was really well done. But as you say, I mean, and yeah, you're right. I mean, it makes you wonder why not just base them more on history. I guess I would say,
and I get the gladiator part because it's obviously a fake character. They said he was loosely based on this one, general, but it's like, come on, okay. But I get it. There's not enough information to create a full blown 3 hour movie. I get that. By the way, we're going to talk about
I
something
think
that doesn't annoy us
even,
later. But yeah, anyway, so a full blown 3 hour film, and it's just like, I get that. So
but yeah, but I think the whole stabbing him at the end. See, I mean, if you want to be like generous to the ones who sort of wrote what would happen, or wrote the actual film script, I would say like it's quite interesting how some, well, I don't know if some, but definitely one emperor I can think of who, um, I mean, the fact is like, why would an emperor, go
right,
into a gladiator fight?
right,
Gladiators being mostly slaves. I mean, obviously some achieved great success, great wealth, in fact, bought their freedom, all this kind of thing, became beloved,
hmm
legends in Roman folklore or whatever. But but it was a very classist society. I don't know. I mean, it would be demeaning, in fact, for an emperor to, it would be demeaning for an emperor to go
and
down
it
and
wasn't even that. They actually
fight
had like a
that way.
battle inside of the. Remember?
Oh well,
Yeah,
that too. Yeah,
it's like they were.
but I was
It was a
thinking,
great moment where they're surrounded by the
yeah,
Praetorian Guard, and I think
right,
they even put like, oh no, maybe that's another movie, but they put like double shield. No, that's a different movie. Sorry, never mind. But they were
right,
surrounded by
right.
Praetorian Guards, and they're just like duking it out in the. It's like yeah, it's just
Yeah,
yeah.
but I mean, it makes me. I mean, it kind of makes me think of Nero because Nero, the Emperor Nero, his great aspiration in his life was actually to um, be a renowned musician, and I think when he was finally killed, assassinated, it took him a while to die. And apparently, like his last words were, "What a what an artist dies in me." And yeah, no, it's quite ridiculous. Uh, but the point is, you could, I mean, in Gladiator, you could almost imagine like a kind of a mentally unstable emperor who's been so detached from normal life, maybe wanted to get down and dirty with the gladiator. I don't know.
So I think the next thing we're going to talk about that is quite relevant with what we're talking about these two films is I would say annoy, but things that basically disappoint us in history films, and maybe you could bring some examples. I would definitely be bringing some examples. Um, like I said, full disclosure, I have not seen that many for the reasons that I'm about to say. Um, and we're going to talk about a film that's about to come out, which it's my favorite character, and there was like 10 inaccuracies within the trailer. So that just goes to show me, so we're talking about things that bother us about historical films being inaccurate, and we're going to basically cite specific things. So, as I was saying earlier about history films, like with history, I find it extremely fascinating already. And for example, with what I'm doing on my IG and YouTube, I post short videos as of right now, and their short videos sometimes is just daily info or I talk about a specific topic. And a lot of times I get comments from the audience. They're just like, "Whoa, I didn't know that. It's really fascinating." And that's what I mean with history. It's like, why not just do that? Why not just put that in the film? There's already enough intrigue where it's very interesting. It's very um, unexpected. So for example, I haven't posted these yet on my dailies, but there's going to be a daily. It's about you probably might know this. It's like about John the oh gosh, I forgot his name now. Well, basically, well, these two lords. One's English, one's French, and basically they make a truce. And then 3 days later, he kills the French duke. And it just, my point is, it's just interesting to see that like this kind of betrayal, these kinds of like shady things that a lot of historical films show, directly shows it in real life, and it's I don't get why sometimes yeah
Well, I mean, I know your thoughts on Game of Thrones.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
But let's be
Overdrive
honest,
is Game of Thrones.
that was that was a good. I mean, basically, Braveheart, the story of William Wallace and Robert the Bruce and Edward the First, would have been better portrayed had it been more like Game of Thrones, right? Like in the sense of all these so-called friends. This idea that like William Wallace and Robert the Bruce were like deep down they were great friends. It's like no, they as we know, Robert the Bruce ultimately betrayed William Wallace, and it wasn't done in the way the film showed it. It was a way to get rid of a rival. And yeah, I mean, you know, obviously there were aspects of Braveheart which were very showed the ruthlessness of the time, like in the beginning of the film where he goes in and the English king had what was it called together some meeting of all the different clans and then murdered them all um, and strung their bodies up, and then William Wallace comes in as a kid and sees them tied up in the heart or whatever. Um, but it's still this idea of like it's like the baddies versus the goodies, and that was why something like Game of Thrones was. I think it actually appealed to a lot of people who loved history, not just for the clothes and the kind of medieval settings and whatever, but also because when we read history, like an actual history book, you realize how messed up it is. I think Game of Thrones, captured by George R. R. Martin, captured it probably more realistically in that sense. That you know, one minute your ally, so what? One minute someone's your ally, the next minute they are after you, or you're after them. And I think that's pretty good. Um, I mean, I don't want to derail this too much, but another film I really like in the sense of the historical, um, in sense of it being a historical film. I think I've told you this before, but I really like the Chinese film, Raise the Red Lantern.
Oh, love that film.
And
Yes.
one thing I really loved about that is again, I mean, I'm sure this the director's choice, but it didn't. There was no kind of Hollywood kind of glossing over it. It was just like,
Flair
yeah, it
to
was
it.
just like
Yeah.
this is this woman's life. If you're watching this and you haven't seen this film, I highly recommend it. Um, I really like the film. I mean, it's really visually a great film, but it's also and it's acted very well. But it's also just shows this woman surviving, trying to get through life, and I think
Yes. The,
historical
I,
figures
I
are.
for me, those kinds of historical films are okay because it's trying to show a period piece, a story that's developed around a certain period of time. That's totally
Not
okay.
like a historical figure. Sorry,
The
yeah.
issue I have is so that's why even though in the end Gladiator is like okay, it's obviously a fake person within Rome, and Rome itself, the Roman Empire, was shown in a very great way. It's just the part of stabbing combat is okay, all those kind of things kind of ridiculous. But um
Oh, talking about
yes, when it's
talk about Game of Thrones. Because have you seen Rome, the HBO Rome?
I saw up to a certain part.
So I
I saw
really
like
like that. Anyway, yeah.
yeah, it was
I
good,
mean,
but
that
I
did have
just
some historical figures in it as well, sadly. But
I didn't like Rome because, and I get it, it's budget reasons. It was just so small scale.
right,
You see the same actors pop up in the same locations, and it's just like Rome was just like two buildings and some paintings in the background, and I was like, okay, my mind just can't do
okay,
it.
okay.
I still remember that part in Rome where they were like, what was his name? Pompey was gonna have a great battle, and then literally the next episode, it's like after the battle. It shows a few dead bodies in the ground. It's like, well, we won that battle or something, and I was like, oh man,
Well,
this,
that
this
is
is from
yeah,
the
that
battle.
is HBO.
That's
Yeah,
budget
because
reasons, and I get
even
that.
Game of Thrones started off like that. I don't know if you remember, but
Oh, true. Yeah,
the
yeah,
first
yeah.
battle they
Right, right.
showed, it's just like the Tyrion Lannister character like gets knocked out and then wakes up and the
Mm,
battle's over. So
yeah, yeah. So what I was saying earlier was a specific film that highlights my disappointment. Okay, is it's a movie in 2019. It's called The King. not the King's Speech, but like the King, and it's with Timothy Chalamet, and it's a Netflix film. So if you don't have Netflix, I'm sorry you can't watch it. Or but it's it's a it's a film about Henry V, and he's the famous king that had the Battle of Agincourt. Maybe some people say Agincourt, Agincourt, but Agincourt, right?
Mm.
And um, the film was basically made,
I
I'm
haven't
sure,
seen it, by
because
the way.
Tim.
Mostly
Oh
based
yeah, I
on your
know.
review, but
Spoiler alert, no, but but basically, Timothy Chalamet is like a huge actor then, right? So basically, in Hollywood, it's a thing where if you're a really popular actor, a serious actor, a handsome actor, whatever, they're just gonna put you in a bunch of films, right? Timothy Chalamet is still popular, okay, like he's still very successful, and the movie was is about King Henry V, and I saw a trailer and it was very like dark and moody and very like serious. So I was like, "Ooh, maybe this is going to be quite accurate." And then I saw for some reason 2019. Yeah, I was where was I? I believe they released it during COVID actually. Try to remember. Anyway, I can't remember
that
that detail.
sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, basically I saw a documentary about it, like a 20-minute video on YouTube about the movie. And the director was like, "Oh, we are doing everything as historically accurate as possible," and they even built a trebuchet, like a working trebuchet, and then they were like, we built the trebuchet for the film, and they show you how to use it." And I was like, "Whoa, this is actually crazy." I was like, "I've never seen this. This is pretty amazing." Just a small little aside of them building a trebuchet. For example, there are a lot of historical films, Civil War films, Napoleonic films, whatever, you know, American Revolutionary War films. Did you ever know when you fire a cannon, what happens to the cannon?
What shoots backwards, isn't it?
It will fly away.
Oh right,
Basically, it
fly
will fly.
away.
It will fly like 5 feet back.
Right.
But in every, and I get it, budget reasons, okay. But with every historical film, it's just like, boom, it just
But
stays
weren't
there.
there? I mean, didn't they develop? Well, I don't. I'm pretty sure with Canon, for example, didn't they develop ways like didn't they tie it down or something to just make the impact of it flying back less?
No. Well, okay, when I say 5 feet, I don't mean it just flies out of position. I meant like it will move
I'm pretty
backwards
sure if
because of the
that. Yeah, I'm
sheer.
pretty sure if that happened, they would have.
So what a lot. I mean, I think they did this in World War One.
Yeah.
I've seen footage of it. So what they would do is they would build a cannon, and then they would cut a big
Right.
like
That's
hole
what
in
I'm
the
thinking.
ground.
Yeah.
So the
Rolls
wheels would
back.
like it would
Yeah.
fire and then roll back, and they had to push it
Yeah.
back up. Now, did they do that for every single Napoleonic battle? Of course not, because like literally, there's like thousands of cannons in a battle, or hundreds of cannons in a battle. You're talking about, so that did not always happen. So, um, anyway, so with the trebuchet and the comparison of the cannons, like actually them building a real trebuchet, I was like impressed. I was like, damn, this is cool. And they, like I said, they were like, we're going to be very historically accurate, blah 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 blah. So with that, the film itself was not entertaining. I liked it, but it was just a little. It was a little too slow, and the entire film seemed dark. Like physically, it was just dark to see things. I guess the period of the time, it was just a very horrible time in in English and French history. But the main problem I had with the film was literally the ending, and it's about the Battle of Agincourt. What do you know of the Battle of Agincourt? What's the famous thing that happened?
Or well, I'd say the most famous thing is the English are
Most
massively
significant.
right. Well, the English are
Yeah.
massively outnumbered. They're retreating, in fact,
Yes.
and the French have get to the battlefield with their with the what are they what's the expression cream of the crop, the best aristocratic knights nobility on horseback, and they charge at the English across the muddy field, and the English pour long use their longbows, pour longbow fire
Yes.
arrows into the to the point where the sky turns black with these arrows, and the knights are massacred, and of course, if their horses are cut down, then they can't get up out of the mud, and then it's a complete chaotic mess of a battle in which the plucky English kill off, and in fact, it was to have a big impact even on French society, in fact, because so many of these noble aristocratic knights died. So it's going to
Yes.
leave a legacy for decades after. But well, that's what I know from anyway. And then, of course, Henry the Fifth becomes a Shakespearean play.
Yeah, basically you summed it up pretty well. Basically, the French creme de la creme, the royal nobles of France at that time, basically were completely wiped out, and it pushed back French like development, I guess, for decades. And the most famous part, like you said, was the French cavalry gets stuck in the mud because they were it rained the day before, and they got stuck in the mud, and they were wearing heavy what's it called? Heavy armor, as knights do. And I believe the French knights specifically wore even heavier armor because like more grand and more. But anyway, they got killed by the English longbowmen. Funny thing, like I saw a video once about this over 10, 15 years ago, where historians didn't know how Agincourt won,
Oh, okay.
and then they showed, or maybe the video was saying they didn't know, but they actually showed how. But anyway, they were saying that with recent uh, building of mock tests and using technology, they said we deduced that basically they were extremely wiped out by the mud only,
Mm.
and they were completely weighed down. And at certain points, soldiers would just French knights would just be on the floor stuck, and English would just come and just stab them to
Right.
death,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Now, the main part that before you summed up Agincourt, the main part with my issue with the film was probably the penultimate part of the film. So in the film, there is Robert Pattinson. He portrays the Dauphin. That's pronounced Dauphin. The which is the son of the French king. And people would disagree with me. I thought it was terrible acting. Anyway, that's just me. He's just doing a typical French accent, and I was like, okay. Anyway, um, but in the main part of the film, as the knights charge into battle and they're getting wiped out because of the longbowmen, the mud, Robert Pattinson's character decides to charge into battle. Okay, and he talks this big stuff like, "Oh, I'm this like great French prince. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna whoop your ass," type of thing, right? And he goes into battle, and then he basically slips. Like he goes into battle, and it was like, again, Hollywood. The English knights, the French knights just like let him through. Okay, he walks up, tries to fight. I believe Henry V, right, Timothy's character, and he's about to fight, and he just slips. And I was like, okay, like what? And then as he slips, English soldiers or knights, they just come and stab him to death. And I'm like, what? I'm watching this and I'm like, what? And then because and then it shows like, okay, I killed your son, and they go to the French king, and the French king was like, all right, okay, I'll stop fighting, I'll sign a peace or something like that. So, okay, I'll say this. I got so annoyed by that point, I kind of forgot the rest of the film. But something to the French king in like a letter, your son's dead. The king's like, oh my god, okay, I gotta make peace with the English. So after this, because the whole time I'm thinking of Agincourt. Oh, it's known for the death of the French nobility. I'm like, damn, yeah, okay. And I saw that, and this happens. I literally had to like check it and make sure I wasn't confused.
Mm.
The Dauphin wasn't even at the battle.
Uh,
Like, okay, like I get it. Roman killing Commodus. Like, okay, that's 2,000 years ago. The Dauphin wasn't even at the battle. I looked this up yesterday just to be in preparation. The Dauphin died weeks later of like a disease or something. Like, just show Henry V dominating the English nobility, or create a nobility character that is portrayed by Robert
I
Pattinson
don't
or
know
something.
why,
Like,
but I just feel like was there not like wasn't there quite a famous, when I say famous, I mean famous for like the period. Like a famous aristocrat in the battle, like some
so okay,
Burgundian
so
or
again, I'm kind of forgetting,
right.
but there was a character under Henry V, a person, real person named Falstaff. He apparently dies in battle, and apparently that didn't happen either. Like, apparently in the film, Falstaff was like a drunk and this and that, but when it came to the battle, he was like, I'm gonna be your guy. Like, I'm gonna be legit. Don't worry." And then he brings all the soldiers. He does a full on charge, like he charges with like knights and like on foot. And I was just like, that doesn't make sense. I don't think that happened in the battle. Like, why would you sacrifice thousands of your soldiers just in a charge, a foot charge? Okay, so we've pretty much explained why I was disappointed with the king, and it's just the part of me that the history lover in me where I really want to see something that is accurate, and there is a thing that in Hollywood movies where, let's just say, the movie's about an American president, or the movie's about, let's just say, some soldiers saving a hostage. There is this typical American uh, statement in a film where before the film begins they'll always say something like based on a true story. So maybe people don't realize when you see the phrase based on a true story, like 85% of the film is going to be BS, right? Or there's another phrase where they say based on a true story, and they say another one, which is again the phrase. This phrase is better than based on a true story. Um, Maybe I think something like adapted or something adapted from the book, and if it's adapted from a historical book, then what you're watching is primarily like what has happened. Um, so yeah, that's something that I feel like if you're gonna do a short documentary or whatever that says things like, oh, it's based on very historical accuracy, we're doing everything historically accurate, you would hope that the most important part of the film, which is the battle, which I believe is Henry V's most famous thing in his life, that would be accurate. I mean, he won the damn battle. Like he's glorious. He's this. He's that. But and then you have English knights stab him anyway. Um, yeah. So we're going to sum up the video now. We're almost done now, and the podcast, and it's what we will possibly see with Napoleon, the new movie coming out. By the way, same director as Gladiator. To go full circle in our discussion. So, have you seen the trailer?
I have, yeah, seen the trailer.
The oldest one, or like the most recent ones, or
Um, I
they
remember.
have like
Okay, so
multiple trailers. You know.
yeah, because I remember he's speaking to, I guess, Josephine in like some fancy
Oh
ball,
yeah, okay.
and then he's there's the bit where he's shooting at the pyramids.
Oh Lord,
Is that in that? I've
don't
seen
give me.
that, whatever trailer that
That's the
is.
first one.
That's the one I've seen. Oh, okay, fair enough.
Oh Christ. Okay, so as I have probably mentioned before, Napoleon Bonaparte is my favorite historical figure, straight up. With Abraham Lincoln. I know big opposites, but Napoleon Bonaparte. Um, I may not know everything about Napoleon Bonaparte, but I do my best to remember a lot. Okay, because I genuinely really love his significance and his moments in history, and I even did a video about him not being actually that short. I'm not sure if you knew that. Anyway, um,
Yeah,
he's actually 5'6". That was average height back then. Um,
right.
but oh god, like okay, if the creators of Henry V want to say it was 800 years ago, like we don't have all the details. All right, okay, like okay, I'll let it go, but yeah, it shouldn't. But okay, fine. Napoleon, that was 200 years ago. Like everything's there. Everything's reported. Okay,
Mm.
so um, I believe the director of Gladiator is British. I believe he's British, and I believe they said he brought in British historians to the film to talk about the film. So a little bit people don't know about that I know about. I don't know about you if you know, but is that British historians generally paint Napoleon as a horrible person, and said he's like the worst, you know, worst person in history. All these things. So I think that's why in the trailer you see him shooting the pyramids. Okay, because I'm sure from
Mm.
some 200-year-old source they probably said something like he is such a bad guy. He shot the freaking pyramids, right?
Mm.
Which is ridiculous. There is no record of him shooting the pyramids.
I
Um,
have to admit, before this trailer and before you told me about it, I'd never heard that
exactly.
rumor.
Okay, exactly. Ironically,
I,
okay,
sorry,
go
can I
on.
just
Yeah,
say, I'm sure there was something about, it was meant to be there was a rumor, I mean, it's not true as well, that with the Sphinx, they were saying the
that he shot
nose
the
was
nose
the,
off. I was just gonna say that. I was gonna say that
yeah,
there's the rumor he shot the nose off, but it's like there's no,
right.
you don't see the cannon, whatever, like the damages, and it's just like, duh. Why would he, you know, like,
And I
how's that
think
even
it's like there's
possible?
some medieval text that describes it as not having a nose or something like that. So
Oh, it
already
hasn't had
back
a nose
then,
for a long
yeah,
time. Right, right, right,
yeah,
right.
yeah, right.
Um, but it's just so ridiculous, and like I don't even know. Can cannons even move up that high? Like, can they shoot that high? I don't know. Like, can they shoot? The pyramids are 200 feet tall, 300 feet or something.
Yeah, it'd be interested to see in the film how they managed to portray this
Well, in the trailer,
as,
just shoot the
you
top of it.
know,
I'm like, can it even go
oh
that
really?
high?
Oh wow,
Anyway, so it's
yeah.
it's my issue with like all these things I see in the trailer, and it's just like it's like Gladiator 2.0. Like it shows multiple times. Okay, I'll say this part before I
But
say
even
the
worse
main.
in a sense because Napoleon, as we've discussed before, it's like Napoleon's the effect he's had on modern history is very impactful in a way that
Yes,
communist wasn't. And there is that kind of because it ties in with like colonialism and like revolution and all these kind of things,
there's
and
too
it's like,
much to
well,
connect him with. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
but it's like so people do kind of still debate his legacy, good or
Yes,
bad.
yes.
And so to have a film like that, which is portraying things, it's not like before each scene they're like, we've heard this might have happened, and this person has
Right,
recorded
right,
it this way.
right.
It's just portrayed, so audiences will look at that and be like, oh, so Napoleon tried to destroy the pyramids. He was like the ISIS,
So
basically,
so
of the 19th century,
So I'll say
essentially,
this,
was it?
okay? I spoke to a follower of mine, and he actually like DM'd me. We are just chatting about history, and he was like, "Oh, like, are you excited about the Napoleon movie?" And I
Mm.
literally was like, "No." He's like, "Why not?" I was like, "Did you not notice all the inaccuracies?" He's like, "Oh, I didn't know that about Napoleon." I was like, "It's completely inaccurate." And he was like, "Oh man, that sucks. I didn't know that." I was like, "Yeah." So let
Yeah.
me let me just quickly say some of the inaccuracies I noticed. So I don't know if that woman in the trailer that's being beheaded at the guillotine, I don't know if that's supposed to be Marie Antoinette. But she had like yellow hair, frizzy hair, and like was wearing like those like tradition like those like royal gowns. That I assumed was Marie Antoinette. I might be wrong. They showed Napoleon there. Napoleon was never there. Like Napoleon wasn't even in Paris at that time when the guillotine of Marie Antoinette happened. Okay, that was like the 1790s or late 1780s. No, he wasn't even there. Okay, he was too young. Anyway, the other inaccuracies too I saw was, or multiple times was he's charging into battle, slashing people left and right with a saber.
Mm.
Napoleon never went to battle, slashing people.
Mm.
There are reasons why you don't do that because though traditional line warfare, you're not supposed to shoot officers or generals. But if you're the heat of battle, you might get shot. Like that's why you would not sacrifice the emperor to go
Mm.
into battle head first in the trailer. I was like,
I mean, do you have any
oh,
idea when? I mean, we can sort of guess, but I do wonder when the
I don't
last.
know when they stopped doing that, but like, did George Washington charge into battle? Of course not. The guy's like 50.
Well, even like early modern, like Henry, the Tudors, or
Probably
they
not.
didn't.
Like,
No.
I mean, I did a video about it recently. Gustavus Adolphus in the 1600s, in the 30 Years' War, he died in battle. Maybe from those experiences, they're like, okay, let's not send the monarch in. Okay. Anyway, that's one thing.
Do you know what the last battle fought on British soil was?
No.
It was the Battle of Culloden, which in the year was 1714, something like that. And it was
Oh, you mean? Oh, okay. Sorry.
one
Okay.
of the sons of the king um, led the battle. But when I say led, I meant on a hilltop,
But he got
telling
killed. I'm
people how
guessing.
to move. No, no, he wasn't killed.
Oh, okay.
No, the point I'm making is that he was far, very far away from the actual
Yes.
battle itself. So this idea that then 100 years after that, you're going to have Napoleon charging into battle
Charging.
is
So
pretty absurd. Yeah.
So the other inaccuracy I saw was like there's this famous moment in history in Napoleon's history where he takes over the Senate, and then later on Roman Senate the French Senate basically votes him to become consul, uh, and they remove the directory, three-man directory, and he basically becomes the consul. In the trailer, he points muskets at the guys at the Senate. I'm guessing it's the senators because it just shows him pointing muskets, and then he was like, "Shall we vote?" And I'm like, vote on what? Like that never happened. Like that's ridiculous. Like that. Was there a planned Napoleon coup where he took over the directory? Absolutely, and there's a lot of evidence for that, and I'm not denying he did that. But did he just point guns at the senators? No, he didn't. Yes, soldiers went in to remove the senators that were getting pissed off at Napoleon's brother, who was the head of the Senate. But he never came in with guns blazing and like, shall we vote? Like cinematic, right? Anyway, the other thing, um, it's a small thing I wanted to mention was Napoleon in the trailer. He's like wearing a hat like 85% of the time. It's like, okay, I get it. He has that. He's famous for the tricolor, what do they call it? The hat, that hat. It's like, does he wear 24/7? He was wearing it in a party in the event. So in the trailer, I was like, he's like the only one wearing. He's the only one wearing a hat, and I'm like, why is he wearing a hat? And then in the trailer, he meets Josephine, who's future wife, and she's just like, hey, what's your name? And he's like, General Napoleon Bonaparte. It's like, oh lord, it's like, oh come
It's like
on.
it shows him like getting in the bath, like wearing the hat, like going into bed.
And then he goes
wearing
into
the
battle
hat.
without a hat. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
look at that, look at that
Mind
switch
blown.
on us.
Yeah.
No, but I also
Didn't
wanted to
expect
say, some people might comment and be like, well, Napoleon did go into battle. Yes, one time. I believe it's the Battle of Arcole, or Rivoli, Arcole, where he charged a bridge because one of his lieutenants gets killed while charging with the French flag. And he's like, we got to push across this bridge, and we gotta defeat the Austrians. They have cannons. They're shooting grape shot, crazy. They're musket fire. He picks up the flag and charges. Even some people are saying that's a little bit much. Okay, but he charges, and then he basically, they push the Austrians out. And if you go to certain museums, I've never been to these museums, but I've seen it. If you go to these museums, they will show you like Napoleon's clothing, and it has bullet holes from that battle. And at that point, Napoleon was like, "Okay, I need to stop." And I get it. Maybe these British historians or the director is going to say like, "Well, Napoleon's had many horses shot under him." It's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean he charged into battle. Like bullets will fly left and right in these kind of battles. It's not like Napoleon's like 2 miles away. He's obviously considerably closer than those generals were, but it's just like it's ridiculous. Okay. Um. But yeah, that's
I mean, I
yeah.
think one of the reasons why that whole notion of a general charging into battle became pretty defunct is because of professional armies, like the concept of a professional army
Yeah.
is that you go into battle not based on the charisma of your lord or general or whomever. You're doing
Yeah.
it because it's like you're being paid to, and that's your job kind of thing. And I think so probably like the early modern period when professional armies sort of started, and you had mercenaries and whatnot.
I believe they said
Um,
the first king to have a true modern army, and actually this king did not go into battle, was Louis XIV. Like he actually had a standing army within peacetime, and that was like an unprecedented thing. Well, I'm sorry, like a massive army, during peacetime, and that was very
right.
unprecedented during periods of peace at that period, and that was almost 100 years before Napoleon, almost. Um, and then Frederick the Great improved upon that. But I want to say one more thing I forgot to say. In regards to Napoleon in Egypt, a lot of people. So with the trailer, they're just shooting the pyramids, it's just ridiculous. Okay, but many people won't know Napoleon was extremely, in regards to the historical sites, the posterity of things. He was very respectful with it. Like
Definitely.
I don't know. It said he famously cried at the statue of Alexander the Great because he kept saying, "Oh, if only I could be as great as you at the age of 25 or whatever. If only I was half as great as you." He like prostrated and cried at it supposedly. Um, but come on, shooting the pyramids. His
Well, they
team
brought in
discovered the Rosetta Stone. Like,
they
okay,
brought all those
explorers,
what would you
those archaeologists,
archaeologists
all of them,
and
yeah, scientists,
scientists,
archaeologists, yeah. It
mathematicians,
was one of the greatest like scientific expeditions ever in modern history, you could say. And yeah, so for him to shoot the pyramids, it's like, come on, dude, that's okay. Um, yeah, I can go on for days about this. But yeah, so today we've actually, with what we filmed so far, we've actually covered a lot of um, the audience's questions. So next time you could try to put some questions in the bottom of the comments. We'll try to put them into the next podcast. Um, any final thoughts, Robin?
um, I mean, I will watch the new film about Napoleon, but
Same.
I think it will be disappointing.
Yeah.
I think visually from the trailer, it looked quite good. It looked like very early 19th century
That yeah,
fashion
the
and
costumes look great. Yes, I would say that.
yeah. Um, but I think there's going to be a lot of cringing um, whilst watching.
Yeah.
But gotta watch it once.
And
I didn't watch. I didn't watch The King,
yeah, right,
like I
right,
was
right.
saying. But I will watch this
And
one.
I'm totally understanding. There's gonna be people in the comments trolling me. Oh, you're such a nerd or something. I get it. Like you're too picky. I get it. It's just that I have a love for Napoleon and history, and I just hope it could be.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And he's already extremely fascinating as a character in history. So, yeah. Anyway,
So did see he did. He did. Is it what's that one about the Crusades? This is Ridley Scott, isn't it? The director.
oh, Ridley Scott. That's what it was. Yes, yes, Ridley Scott.
Yeah. He did. He did. Is it
Kingdom of Heaven.
Kingdom of Heaven? And so for me, I'm really fascinated by that time period, and because I'm quite interested in the history of religion as well. So obviously that is really fascinating, and I've read things like so. I read that the first cut was panned by critics, but there was a longer extended version that they loved. So I started watching the longer version, and I couldn't stand it. I hated it. But I think it's the same themes you have
There's
for
a long
Napoleon.
form Napoleon cut, and I already know it's just going to be inaccurate again. And I get
It's
it.
awful.
Gladiator,
Yeah.
I give him credit because it's like it's 2,000 years ago. I get it. Like you have to embellish things. But yeah, Napoleon's like 200 years ago. You could just freaking Google it and just know it's not. That's not real. Anyway, so it is what it is, and I'm gonna watch it because I love Napoleon, but I won't love the movie. I think. So that's it for this podcast. I think it went well. We'll have another one up with a different topic again. So if you like this, please support the page, like, subscribe, share it. Um, yeah. Okay. That's it. See you guys. Bye.
Yeah. See you later.